Jai Baba, everybody. Welcome to another night of Lord Meher. We have reached volume 4, page 1238 in the actual book, and we are on page 1105 on the online edition, and we have our favorite Marvin starting today's reading. Thank you.
He
It's all
bowed down and stretched himself on the floor at Baba's feet and wept. After coming out of Baba's room, he exclaimed to people, "Today I have met God." On the 25th and 26th, Baba was shown different places in Yezd as suitable spots for his seclusion, but he failed to find a place that met his requirements. He also visited Baidul's house in the suburb of Jafrabad, where he met Baidul's wife Soltun and other relatives. Baba requested Soltun to prepare lunch, but he was in such a hurry to eat he did not allow her to cook the rice properly. Rushing the meal, Baba took all the pots to the dining room where he served the mandali and others. Soltun tried to stop him, saying that the rice was not cooked properly, but when Baba asked each person if it was uncooked, they all replied that it was excellent, much to Soltun's amazement. On Sunday, the 27th of October, the group went to the suburb of Mubarka, where Baba met Bao Saheb's father, Ferdun. Aga Ali's relatives also lived in Mubarka, and the group visited their home as well. However, the relatives insisted on keeping the boy with them and would not allow Ali to travel with Baba any further. Baba was naturally unhappy over the situation, but instructed the Mandali to let Ali stay. One of the Mandali recorded at the time, when Baba saw Ali in Mubarka, he felt very much because Ali had become very weak and his face was pale and gemigin, feverish. And so Baba afterwards wept very much. And seeing this, the Mandali said how fortunate Ali is that Baba loves him so much. Because of this disturbing incident, Ali Akbar and Chota Baba were also sent back to their homes in Persia. Baba again had tears in his eyes when he bid Chota Baba farewell. Footnote.
Lord Meher, page 1105, footnote. Chota Baba was never to see Meher Baba again. He settled in Bandar Abbas. He was employed for a time by the Anglo Persian Oil Company, but was falsely imprisoned for suspected spying. Afterwards, Meherji employed him as the manager of his business in Bandar Abbas. Chota Baba then did volunteer work for the equivalent of the Iranian Red Cross for 27 years. He never had any further spiritual experiences. Years later, he reflected, even though I departed from Baba and lost the inner consciousness of what I was allowed to experience by Baba. What I attained in the path, I was graced with character for life in the worldly life and trade, in business and community, with my neighbors, friends, dealings. In all that, I have chosen the path of righteousness, truthfulness, sincerity, and have not even a liking for material and worldly things as others do. I am happy that this result that I have is due to the life and due to the love that Meher Baba gave. Ramju's Diary, Sufism, Reoriented, Walnut Creek, 1979, page 548. Continue.
Aga Ali's relatives were so opposed to Meher Baba that one of his uncles actually hid a pistol in his boot, intending to kill Baba. But when the man came face to face with Baba, he completely forgot what he had come to do and bowed to him, taking darshan instead. He later repented for his ill-intended plan and sent Baba a large basket of peaches as a gift and token of his newly acquired admiration. Jalbai and Maruti Patil returned to India at this time. From Mubarka, Baba decided to visit Khorramshahr, the birthplace of his grandfather, Mundagar, and father, Shariarji. Upon arriving in the town, Baba was in a splendid mood and gave Chanji a new hat and Vishnu a new coat. Baba returned to Yezd, but still found it unsuitable for his seclusion purpose and decided to leave. On the day of his departure, the 28th of October, Baba was invited to visit the Zoroastrian Marker School, where a large crowd had gathered to see him, along with hundreds of school children from different schools. The principal of the school asked Baba when he would break his silence and speak. With a sly smile, Baba dictated on the alphabet board. After 4 months. Later, a throng of people surrounded Arbab Kushrav's house, so Baba had to slip away without even being able to eat. When the crowd came to know of the master's departure, there were tears in the eyes of some. Even though they had been unable to bid him farewell, his remembrance was in their tears. Reaching the town of Kerman at 9 a.m. the following morning, Baba had the cars driven into a garage, and he and the Mandali stayed there behind closed doors. He explained, I do not wish to stay in this town, nor do I want to see anyone, so take care that no one comes to meet me. Despite precautions, one man named Rustam Sorab, Irani, came to know of Baba's arrival. He entreated Baba to stay at his luxurious bungalow, but Baba refused. Rustam then sincerely requested that Baba pay a visit to his house, at least, assuring him of a private entry where he would not be seen. To this also Baba did not agree. But news of Baba's arrival had spread, and a large crowd gathered outside the garage to meet Meher Baba. The police had to be called to disperse them. Because of the large functions held in the master's honor in Yezd, people had learned of Baba's trip to Persia, and many wished the country's ruler, Reza Shah, to meet him. Some were very eager to bring about this meeting, but Baba adamantly refused. Footnote. Mona, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah. Lord Meher, page 1106, footnote. Colonel Irani had met Reza Shah in April 1926. When the colonel traveled to Persia as part of an official delegation representing the Zoroastrians of India at Reza Pahlavi's coronation ceremony as Shah of Iran. Sorry of the mispronunciation. Yeah, you can continue, Marvin. Thank you.
The group quietly left Kerman for Bam early on Wednesday, 30 October 1929. Halting along the way, Baba felt hungry and directed Masaji to prepare something by the side of the road. But when Baba found out that they had nothing with them, he taunted Rao Saheb about the poor arrangements he made as the manager. Rao Saheb lost his temper. In Yezd or Kerman, he replied angrily, I requested so many times to buy potatoes, butter, bread, yogurt, and fruit, but you refused. I knew well that we would not be able to buy such food on the road. Now, what am I to do if you feel hungry? Offer you grass or hay? Baba chuckled and remarked, I have been wanting only grass all the while. Where is it? By grass, Baba meant vegetarian food, which was generally unavailable in Persia. And because it was unavailable, Masaji had been forced to cook their meals throughout the journey. Driving further, they found watermelons for sale, and after eating a little, Baba gave the rest to Rao Saheb, who was still in an irritable mood on account of the incident. They arrived in Bam later that same day, and inquiries were made as to how to proceed to Duzdab. They were informed that if they did not get stranded in the desert along the way, Duzdab could be reached in 2 days. But they were strongly advised not to go that way. Many caravans were known to have perished on the route or become stuck or buried in the sands. They were also told that the route was extremely dangerous and full of highway bandits. Don't be foolish, someone warned them. No one uses that route. Going across that route is inviting death. If anyone goes that way and reaches Duzdab safely, he is considered to have been granted a second life by Allah. In the interim, Reo Saheb arranged for a quiet rest house on the outskirts of a town where they stayed. They bathed for the first time since leaving Isfahan a week ago. Soon after, a discussion took place about returning to Mehrabad. As a substitute for Aga Ali, Baba wished to travel with another Persian boy of good character, whom Reo Saheb went in search of and found. The next day, Thursday, 31 October 1929, Ustaji noticed a saintly looking man whom the local people held in great reverence, seated in front of a shop opposite their house, and told Baba about him. Baba came to the door to see him. As soon as Baba appeared at the door, the saint jumped up from his seat as a mark of respect for Baba, whom he seemed to know. He came forward and kissed Baba's hands. Baba embraced him, and the man walked off to return to his seat. He told all who came to him afterwards, "There is amidst us an emperor of all fakirs." Later, Baba had him brought to his room, where he sat alone with him. Next page. Baba gave him his mattress, and the man departed. Baba revealed that the man was a wali on the fifth plane. Meanwhile, that day, for the first time since he was a teenager, Ua Saheb shaved off his mustache, which dramatically changed his appearance. Baba commented, "The evil is removed." Baba then mentioned the programs at Yezd and the love of the people there. Baba praised Rustam Kushrav, the merchant who had arranged the events held in Yezd. The whole town was excited to meet Baba, and it was the only place in Persia where the master would give mass darshans, coming out of seclusion to make public appearances. In Bam, a general of the Persian army came to Baba's residence in full uniform, with a sword hanging by his side. He asked the Mongoli about Meher Baba, but was told that no one by that name lived there. The general requested, "Please go tell your master that a beggar is standing on his threshold." When informed, Baba permitted the soldiers to enter. The moment he came into Baba's presence, he folded his hands reverently on his chest, a mark of respect in Persia. He saluted Baba in grand Persian military style, and then, taking out his sword, placed it on the floor. Falling at Baba's feet, he kissed his hands. Scroll. "Who are you?" Baba inquired. "Your humble slave," he replied. "What is your rank?" "It is nothing before your venerable self," the man replied. "I asked about your rank in the army." "I am a general in the army of Persia." Baba lovingly patted him on the head and back and remarked, "To die in the service of one's country is indeed great, but to die for love of God is greater." The general nodded, saying, "I understand, Your Holiness. I implore you to grant me the grace that my devotion to God may increase." "I will help you," Baba promised. In adoration, the general closed his eyes and bowed down, saying, "If I am permitted, Your Holiness, I would like to say that the salvation of my country does not lie in its military strength, but in its spiritual rebirth through an inner understanding of life brought about by the grace of great buzurgs, masters like yourself. My humble prayer is that you might be pleased to shower your grace on my unfortunate country and its illiterate people." Baba smiled, gesturing, "That is why you see me here." we can have a Will I read one more page?
It's up to you. You want to continue or you want
Yeah, I'll
next?
go one more. We don't have that many readers today. It's a great privilege for this country. May your blessings sanctify the soil of this land. The general then walked reverently backward, step by step, gazing at Baba. It was a most touching and memorable sight, and one that the Mandali never forgot. When they later asked the general how he happened to come to meet Baba, the man explained that he was a seeker and had been literally drawn by some unexplained spiritual force. Later, the police commissioner of BAM came to inquire about Meher Baba. According to the prevailing law in Persia, the police were authorized to record the name, business, and purpose of visit of all foreigners traveling through the country. The commissioner had come to gather these details. The facts were laid before him by Baba's secretary, Chanji, but the officer said, I wish to meet your leader, Arbab Merwan, in person. He was told that Baba was not meeting anyone, but he persisted. According to government regulations, I must interview him in person. When he was told again that it was not possible, he said, I cannot tell you how much it would mean to me to see Hazrat Meher Baba. Then he apologized and confessed, I have used my authority solely to gain entrance and have your master's darshan today. Everything I did was simply pretense. Baba was informed and called the commissioner to his room, remarking that he appreciated the spirit of love and intense desire to meet him behind the man's actions. The man humbly presented himself to Baba and kissed his hands. Baba allowed him to sit with him for a while, and then he remarked to the man, I will return from Quetta soon and will break my silence and manifest in Persia. The commissioner said, I am indeed happy to have met the revered one that so many now talk about. Hazrat, I am ready to carry out your wishes. Turning to the Mandali, he commented, you are truly fortunate to have the constant company of the master. Soon after, Rao Saheb hired a bus to drive to Duzdab, and an experienced driver named Hafizji was engaged. Many came for Baba's darshan in Bam, which he unexpectedly granted. Before departing, Baba bade the boy Rao Saheb had brought to accompany them and dressed him in new clothes. Baba and the Mandali left Bam at noon on Friday, November 1st, 1929. Okay.
Rosalie, can we have
The driver.
Thank you.
The driver was specifically instructed not to load any other items on the bus. Baba suddenly lost his temper while taking his seat, but none of the men could understand the reason for it. They had proceeded only a mile when the bus had 2 flat tires. The driver, Hafizji, became frightened because the tires were brand new and there was no apparent cause for the punctures. The tires were repaired and they drove on to the next stop where they rested. As they were driving the next day, Hafizji noticed steam spewing out of the radiator. Stopping the bus, he got down and inspected it. What could be wrong, he wondered. He poured cold water in the radiator and restarted the bus. However, within a few minutes, the engine registered as hot as before. Getting down from the bus, Hafizji opened the hood and checked the engine, but again failed to detect anything amiss. Perplexed, He kept checking and finally found a small crack at the bottom of the radiator. He managed to patch the crack with the white of an egg, filled the radiator with cold water, and drove as slowly as he could, muttering at the wheel, Allah, Allah. They arrived at the village of Farej that night. Hafiz Ji was often heard talking to himself. Someone's unmuted. Allah, protect me. I've never had such trouble before. The journey was resumed the following day, but again, after driving only a few miles, the radiator began boiling over. Hafiz Ji was at his wit's end by this time. He tried to repair the damage, but his mind was despondent. And being superstitious, he was afraid. When Rao Sahib approached Hafiz Ji to comfort him, the driver suddenly remembered what was wrong and told Rao Sahib, who spoke Persian, "Now I understand why all this has happened. It is so clear to me now. I have broken my promise to your master. Before leaving Bam, I loaded 2 gunny sacks of almonds on the bus, contrary to his orders. How am I to ask for his forgiveness? I am ashamed of my ignorance and folly. Kindly pray to him on my behalf to forgive me." Rao Sahib sympathized with the man and told him, "I warned you that bad luck accompanies those who break their promise to Meher Baba, but you failed to heed my advice. I will take you to Meher Baba and entreat him to forgive you." Rao Sahib took Hafiz Ji to Baba, who forgave him. Baba spelled out, "Never disrespect the word of a loser, and never break a promise once you have given it. Now stop worrying. Drive back to Bam carefully and return with another bus." The driver was doubtful the bus would make it to Bam, but Baba assured him, "Don't be anxious. I will see that it arrives safely." Baba directed Rao Sahib to take the Persian boy back home, and they traveled with Hafiz Ji. The headman of the village of Farej was greatly drawn to Baba. He declared to his townspeople, "I have been in the service of fakirs, lords, and nobles, but I have never come across such nur, light, as I find in Meher Baba's face." Meanwhile, Hafiz Ji followed Baba's advice and safely reached Bam. He immediately sent another bus, a 6-cylinder Chevrolet, with Rao Sahib, but did not come back with it, stating he felt too exhausted and shaken to drive. What trouble Baba had to undergo to teach this man a lesson. The master spent 2 days in an isolated desert village where there was little to eat and thieves were rampant. But Hafiz Ji was meant to be blessed and learned a lesson he was never to forget. When the other bus arrived, Baba and the group left Farej on Monday, 4 November 1929. 3 guides were taken with them to show the way. The heavily loaded bus had much difficulty in covering the sandy track. The tires would sink into the sand, and the Mandali had to get down and help push. Traveling was extremely slow. In 1 hour, they were able to cover only 4 miles. After crossing a desert region, they faced mountain roads with dangerous hairpin curves. On occasion, Baba himself would get out and walk down the steep gaps with the men as the bus slowly descended. Still quite some distance from Duzda, night had fallen. It was late, and the driver suspected he had missed the way. He wanted to stop, but Baba assured him that he was on the right road and pointed out the direction to follow. On one occasion, the driver was adamant and said that he was not going further. The Mandali tried to persuade him to drive on, but he refused. Baba got out of the bus, displeased with the man's attitude. After a few tense minutes, the driver agreed to proceed, but disavowed any responsibility. After driving a short distance, the driver was surprised to see lights ahead and wondered what town he was approaching. He could not believe his eyes when he saw Duzda, as according to his calculations, they were still days away. They reached Duzda at 9 p.m. on Tuesday, 5th November. Everyone was exhausted from the strenuous journey. To return to India, Baba could have journeyed via the sea route, which would have been much more convenient. But for his own reasons, he chose to go overland, which very few foreigners who visit Persia ever did. The Mandali could only silently wonder why Baba had chosen to travel through the desert and mountains, suffering severe privations during the entire journey. 3 of them became seriously ill. Quite wearied from the journey, Chuggan awakened late the next morning and was severely taken to task by Baba. "Whatever I ask you to do, you do not do," Baba scolded. Turning to the others, he fumed. "No one does what I ask. All of you have no care for me. I try to wake you up at 5 and you go on sleeping." Baba also taunted Bua Sahib. Consequently, when it came time to eat, both he and Chuggan were in irritable moods. Baba later tried to cajole Chuggan out of his depression, inquiring, "Are you here to serve me, or am I supposed to serve you?" Chuggan refused to cheer up and stopped eating. Baba personally served him a cup of tea, which soothed him. Dansak, a tasty Parsi dish of rice and dal, was prepared by Masaji. More words. And Baba personally served it to the Mandali. He then explained, "Today I am serving you dansak for 2 reasons: to help cure your stomachs, and for certain important work of mine to purify and redeem the people of Persia." Never before in the history of any saint or perfect master was such a practical procedure resorted to as I am doing here. But what I am doing is only here and now. I will never do it afterward or elsewhere. Wow. Dustab was then a frontier station on the border of Persia and British India. At that time, things were very strict on both sides of the border. Hard and fast rules were to be followed by both sides. Before anyone was permitted to cross the border, a thorough investigation was made as to the references of the party concerned. Baba explained to Rao Sahib and Chanji, it will take a long time to obtain visas. So go to the government office today and start the paperwork. If we get stranded here, we will not be able to catch the Sunday train and we'll have to spend a month or more here, experiencing much trouble in obtaining visas. On page. There were 2 trains a week leaving Dustab for Quetta on Thursday and Sunday. To get the required visas in the few remaining days was improbable. But Baba informed Chanji and Rao Sahib of the necessity of a speedy return to India. He demanded that they do whatever they felt was necessary to obtain the documents in time. While these 2 were engaged in this assignment, Baba sent Wow Sahib into the town in search of a good boy who would attend to Baba in his special work. Wow Sahib found 3 boys in Dustab and brought them before Baba. But Baba glared at him and did not find them suitable for his purpose. However, he fed the boys and gave them new clothes and then sent them back. After Baba did this several times, the following heated confrontation ensued between him and Wow Sahib. Jungli, why do you bring boys like yourself? Baba asked Wow Sahib caustically. For God's sake, give me a good one next time. Searching for them is a great headache, Wow Sahib answered. I selected the best youths I could find. What am I to do if you don't approve of any I bring? Animal that you are, you bring only animals. Don't you feel ashamed to show me such beggars? Page. Exasperated, Wow Sahib burst out. Now I don't want God or the world. I can't bear this life under you. I am leaving. Wherever you go, I will be there too. Show me the place where I am not. Fool that you are, go and see for yourself. You will discover what I say is true. Baba, I am terribly harassed. I cannot bear your taunts and teasing any longer. Wow Sahib pleaded. Baba then replied, I get angry because of you. Your ways cause me anger. How could I be angry without reason? Now that I am angry, you should try to pacify me. But no, you people get upset by the smallest things. So I have to console you. And that makes me angry again. Your duty is to serve me. But on the contrary, it is I who serve you. What is the purpose in staying with me like this? Baba then explained, my work is to wound and kill you gradually. But what am I to do when the wound makes you fret and fume? Should I stop wounding you? I try to appease you. I give you explanations. I give you courage. I have to wound you. So I want you to be brave enough to bear it. But you remain impervious to my mercy. Page. Since the Meher ashram days, wherever the master went, he had a boy personally accompany him, and he would bathe, feed, and dress him in new clothes, usually after a few days. Baba would send these boys home. This particular aspect of Meher Baba's work lasted for almost 28 years. But not once in that long period did the Mandali find a boy worthy to serve Baba for long. Footnote.
Lord Meher, page 114, footnote. After decades of searching for the perfect boy, Baba once kissed his own childhood photograph and remarked, I wanted a boy like him, but could never find one.
After,
Continue, please.
after Baba Saheb calmed down, Baba discussed his future plans with the Mandali. He informed them, I have now decided to proceed directly to Nasik. I will remain there in seclusion, and Baba Saheb will be my bujawar, personal servant, with incense burning all the time. It was usual throughout such journeys that there would be tension between one of the Mandali and Baba. While in Persia, sometimes Masaji would be blamed, at other times, Sidhu. For some days it was Chagan's turn, and then Wal Saheb. Baba's constant taunting would uproot one's mind and profoundly disturb one's sensibility. In this way, each man was taught how to live with, serve, and please the master. On Thursday, 7 November 1929, a man named Dinyar Irani came for Baba's darshan, but he was turned away. Since Baba was not seeing anyone, Dinyar left disappointed. But what he was to accomplish for Baba would make his story immortal. Rao Saheb, War Saheb, and Chanji did their best to obtain visas. But despite their best efforts, by Saturday afternoon of the 9th, they had only succeeded in getting visas from the Persian consul. They had yet to procure British visas for entering India, and the British consul's office closed at 1 p.m. that day. Baba wanted to leave on Sunday. To obtain travel documents at such short notice was not an easy task, but relying on Baba's inner help, they entered the consul's office. They were under strict orders not to discuss, not to disclose Baba's identity. So the information they gave was deliberately vague. Failing to get satisfactory replies about the party's avocations, the British consul refused to issue their visas back into India. Baba was most disappointed when he was informed. Soon after, he sent Rao Saheb and Chanji directly to the consul's residence, but again they returned without visa.
Thank you, Rosalie. Mahu, would you like to read next?
Okay, sure. Just I need to get the page. Sorry. This is page 115, Meher Baba's trip to Iran in 1929. Baba became upset. For the fourth time, he asked them to approach the British consul. They hesitated and Baba scolded, quote, "If you don't want to carry out my wishes, what is the sense in remaining with me?" Rosahib replied, "It is not a question of following orders, Baba. We have to work according to the ways of the world for those affairs connected with it. We are told not to disclose your name, and all this difficulty is due to that. But we continue to carry out your wish faithfully in this respect." Baba declared, "You are both quite useless, and it is better if you are more attentive to worldly ways. What harm is there if you are driven away from the office? Forget the ways of the world and keep my wishes in mind. Do I not understand all this? Am I mad? What is there in doing something easy? Your manliness will shine forth if, according to my order, you do something impossible. True discipleship means complete and implicit obedience to the will and the word of the Master." Meanwhile, Dinyar Irani returned and was standing by the doorstep, but again, he was prevented from entering. He pleaded, "I have come on a very urgent matter. I must see Meher Baba." Baba was informed and he called him inside. "Why have you come?" Baba inquired. "I have brought a letter for you, Your Holiness." Surprised, Baba asked, "For me?" "Not for you personally, but a letter addressed to the British consul on your behalf." "Who brought it?" "Your devoted slave." "From whom?" "From the governor of Dozdab." "What about?" "To allow you and your party to cross the frontier by tomorrow morning's train." "How did you manage it?" "By your grace and help, sir." Baba's face lit up and he exclaimed, "Shabash," means well done. Beckoning Dinyar closer to him, Baba patted him on the back and rested his hand on his bent head, blessing him. Dinyar had been anxious to see Meher Baba and he met him in an exceptional way. The Mandali were dumbfounded. For a few minutes, silence prevailed. None uttered a word in the tense atmosphere. Baba looked with disdain at Chanji and Rosahib, who were feeling ashamed. "Here's a typical example of what love can achieve," Baba stated on the board. "Look at this man. He is a poor merchant in this town and has no great influence in government circles, yet he managed to approach the highest official here, the governor himself, and persuade him to write a letter to the British consul to to allow us to cross the frontier unhindered, in quote. Next page. Page 1116. This is no small work or service, and he did all this unasked, on his own accord, without even telling us about it. Such service so selflessly had and spontaneously rendered with no hopes of any reward except my blessings must succeed, however difficult be the task. And he did succeed. Why? Because of the love which inspired him to do it. For the sake of the love, he put in it to make it a success. I am so happy. He deserves my blessings. He is blessed. Pointing to Rose Sahib and Chanji, Baba added, quote, look at these two who have lived with me for years and who know my ways of working. They call themselves members of my mandali and my close and intimate disciples. Yet, in spite of my repeated instructions to go to the British consul and explain to him what I had told them, they hesitated and had 1,001 other thoughts as to how to do it best. Gesturing to Chanji and Rose Sahib, Baba motioned, quote, now you too, stop worrying. Go with this gentleman to the British consul and give him the letter immediately. At 10 o'clock that night, in the bitter cold, they approached the consul's deputy and handed him the letter from the governor of Dozdab. Yet when they returned, Rao Sahib and Chanji were restless the whole night and woke up at 4 o'clock, anxious to finish the job. They arrived at the consul's residence in the early hours of dawn and furnished him with full information about Baba and the other men, explaining to him that Baba's departure that day was imperative. After making them wait, the consul called them into his office at 8 o'clock. He was not completely satisfied with the letter of recommendation from the governor, and he placed it on his table. Exasperated, he said, at least tell me who you people are. Chanji admitted, Mirvan Irani is our master, and we are his disciples. Taking this simple statement to heart, the consul directed his clerk to fill out their visas and get their signatures as a special case. The British consul in Dozdab was extremely cautious about issuing visa at that time because the communist movement had emerged, publicly calling for India's independence from Britain. And Baba's party included unemployed Iranis, Parsis, Hindus, and Muslims. The consul was afraid that if Meher Baba's companions turned out to be communist agitators and they were permitted to cross into India, creating disturbances there, he would be held responsible.
Thank you, Mahu.
Sure.
Eugene, would you like to read next?
Yes. Let me put my reading glasses on. They arrived at the consul's residence. No, some time ago, the British consul in Bombay had in fact sent instructions to all the consulates along the coastal towns of Persia Persia not to allow Meher Baba's return to India because he had only a Persian passport and not a British one, having refused to sign his name. Unknown to the Mandali at that time, it was for this reason that Baba had selected the hazardous and rigorous land route, crossing the border at Duzdub, where the consulate had not received these instructions. An interesting incident occurred some months later. After their return to India, when Chanji again had occasion to meet the British consul in Bombay regarding issuance of a passport for one of the Mandali, the consul asked him, "Has your master returned from Persia?" "Yes, he came back several months ago," Chanji replied. "Then he has started signing his name, which he refused to do before?" Chanji denied this, and the man asked, "Then how could he have entered British Indian territory without a visa?" Chanji stated simply, "He is a master and nothing is impossible for him." Puzzled, the consul queried, "By what port did he leave Persia?" "He came by the land route, crossing through Duzdob." The consul then exclaimed, "Oh, I see. Now I believe he is a master, and perfect too." Although the consul did not pretend to understand anything about spirituality, he appreciated Baba's, quote, "work for humanity," unquote, and teachings about the higher ideals of life. This incident, however, seemed to convince him of Baba's greatness and power. Before leaving Duzdob, Saheb found another boy he thought would fit Baba's description and brought him to Baba. Baba dressed the lad in fine clothes and fed him, but sent him back. They then caught the Sunday train, which was jam-packed with people. A telegram was sent to Rusi in Quetta, and Baba remarked, "We won't linger in Quetta, but we'll go straight to Nasik." They arrived at Spazand, a station 15 miles south of Quetta, the next day, 11 November, where Pendu, Mia Khan, Rusi, his wife Khorshed, and a few others were waiting to welcome Baba back to India. Rusi had brought freshly cooked food for Baba and the Mandali. After acknowledging his pleasure with the meal, Baba leaned out of the train window and gestured to Rusi. "What is left for you to do in Quetta now? Leave it permanently." Rusi took this remark as a humorous sally and joked in return, "Where will we get such fine grapes if we leave our beloved Quetta? People come from all over the world just to taste the fruits of our land." Bidding farewell to his lovers, Baba continued the journey. They had to change trains in Rohri, and the men began shifting their luggage to the other train. Unnoticed, Baba went into the men's room and took an extremely long time there. The train whistle to depart started to blow. Realizing that they did not know where Baba was, the Mandali ran up and down the station platform searching for him. As soon as Baba came out of the bathroom, the train began pulling out of the station. Picking him up, Rao Saheb ran after the train and pushed Baba through an open window into the compartment. Then Rao Saheb too climbed in through the window. The train was already overcrowded and the doors were locked. Although Baba's boarding was rather rough, he was pleased with Rao Saheb's quick thinking. Baba and the Mandali reached Lahore late at night on Tuesday, 12 November 1929, and leaving the luggage on the platform with one of the men, Baba rested at a nearby hotel for a day. At 11 a.m., Baba went with Chanji to the telegraph office to bring any telegrams that may have been sent. There were none, but Baba sent Chanji back later to double check. again, Chanji was told that no telegrams had been received. It was only after he was sent back 5 times that the clerks discovered a copy of a telegram that had been sent from the Lahore Telegraph. Wait, I'm lost. Sent from and then returned to Nasik. Rustam had failed to write Baba's name in care of the Lahore Telegraph Office. So a clerk had wired Nasik that no one by the name of Meher Baba lived in Lahore. Discovering the mix-up, Chanji realized why Baba had sent him back so many times. That too on his birthday that year, according to the Zoroastrian calendar. And he brought a copy of Rustam's cable. They left Lahore at 6:45 a.m. on the 14th by train. Baba had not eaten for 2 days due, he said, to indigestion. When food was ordered, Masaji also did not eat. Baba asked him the reason, and Masaji replied, "You have taken nothing for the past 2 days, and again today you are not eating. I do not have any appetite when you go hungry." Turning on Rao Saheb and Bua Saheb, Baba criticized, "Did you hear what Masaji just said? Listen and remember it well. It is an example to be followed. Because I do not take food, Masaji also is not eating. Meanwhile, you two are devouring it like animals. When you are devoid of all feeling for me, why do you continue to stay with me? What is the point of calling yourselves my disciples?"
Thank you, Eugene. Elizabeth, would you like to go next? Elizabeth? Okay. Okay, I'll read if she doesn't come through. Bua Sahab felt so bad he didn't eat the meal, and Chanji also threw his position away. On this occasion, Rao Sahab and Bua Sahab kept quiet, bearing the painful sting of Baba's remarks. One more blow to the minds of the Mandali was felt as the master shot another arrow into their hearts. There were three chief features of Baba's visit to Persia in 1929, as noted by Chanji. The chief characteristics of Baba's visit to Persia in 1929 were the unexpected and hearty welcome with which he was received everywhere by the rich and poor alike, who worshipped and adored him as the one in whose hands lay the redemption and salvation of their country. Second, the untold sufferings which he and his entire party experienced due to difficulties in travel by bus through miles of vast expanses of sandy deserts, where, apart from the scarcity of food of any kind, even water couldn't be had for days. The danger of being plundered or slaughtered to the soul by the bandits, which abound in one of the most dangerous parts of Liristan through which the party had to pass, was only avoided by his grace and Nazar. Third, Baba, although a Persian nationality, belonged to the Zoroastrian sect, and the Mughals, who are Mohammedans and generally fanatic, have practically no regard, much less respect, for any religion other than their own. Their reverence, faith, and worship for Baba are all the more valuable and appreciable. Besides this, the Mohammedans believed it against the tenets of their religion to have a photo of any of their buzurgs, that is saints, or of their Prophet Muhammad. For them to have photo lockets of Baba lovingly pinned to their breast is something unbelievable, and these were never shown to them. But seeing these pinned to the coats of Baba's devotees of other religions, these Mohammedan devotees asked for them on their own accord, or rather, some actually fought to have one. When these thousands were furnished in distribution in Persia during the tour, Baba and the Mandali arrived in Nasik 2 days later at 2:30 in the morning on Saturday, 16th November 1929. Nawal and Adi Senior were on the platform to welcome them. Adi reported the news that Sadhu Kristin Lake had recently expired. Laik had returned from his tour of India on 16th October in an emaciated and debilitated condition and stayed at Akbar Press. He was moved to Mehrabad 2 days later, seriously ill and extremely weak. He died at 5:15 p.m. on 29th October and was buried at 10 the next morning in the Christian cemetery in Ahmednagar, the same one where Nelmes was buried. Footnote: Laik is buried in the grave number P19 of the same cemetery. Baba stayed at a private house in Nasik that had been specially rented for him called Gayas Manzil. He described his journey to the women Mandli and Rustam's family, fondly recalling the darshan programs held in Persia and the devotion of the people there, especially in Yazid. Soon after the master's return, many people began approaching Baba for his darshan. Jalbai, Kakabarai, Ramju, Ghani, Dastur, Nosirwan, and others came to Nasik to report on various activities. Baba instructed the Mandali that they were to stay with him in Nasik, and only Bomanji family was to remain in Mehrabad. On Sunday, 17th November, Baba went with Gulmai, Rustam, Vishnu, Padri, Chagan, Dastur, Adi Senior, and Jalbai to Tapovan, a forested area near the outskirts of Nasik where people have meditated and performed penances and fasts for centuries. Tapovan is a designated place of austerity and penance in a forest. Tap means penance and austerity, and one means forest. Their Baba stated, due to my spiritual work, I wish to be free from all responsibilities for some time, especially from financial matters. If anyone can shoulder this burden, it would be helpful to my work. Rustam had opened a branch of Sarosh Motor Works in Nasik and presented a plan to employ all the men in the garage. Baba agreed and proposed that the schoolboys be trained as automobile mechanics as well. The next day, Baba joked to the Bentley, if I ha- if I find any one of you sleeping this afternoon, I will pour water in your ear. The previous night, none had slept, so some were feeling drowsy after lunch and slipped away to take a nap. Quietly sneaking up on those men sleeping, Baba carried out his threat and poured a little water in their ears. He then dictated, times are good and times are bad. He who holds fast to me will win. I'm going to repeat this again, but it's relevant even today. Times are good and times are bad. He who holds fast to me will win. Baba informed the men, I have decided that those at Meherabad should come to stay at Nasik. Most will have to work in Rustam's motor works. Well, that's all for today. We are on page 1120 of the online version. Rosalie or Marvin, could you tell me what page number are we on the actual book?
I'll take a look, but here's a picture, by the way, that we passed before today.
Wow, that's so
It's,
beautiful. I love it. I'm just thinking, can you pin yourself, Marvin? Okay, let me stop sharing.
yeah. Why don't we stop the recording?
Let them see the picture, no? I'm just going to, how do I stop
Stop the
sharing?
recording.